herostratic fame. Many people would rather be hated than unknown. In ancient Greece, Herostratus burned down the temple of Artemis purely so he'd be remembered. Now we have nuisance influencers who stream themselves committing crimes and harassing people purely for clout.
Yeah, so this has become a serious problem now, I think. So I don't know if you know who Jack Dougherty is.
I do. This sort of world of IRL streamers and Jack Dougherty. Tell me when I get this wrong.
There are a few of them.
He appears to kind of start fights in person and has massive bouncers / security guys with him, most of whom seem to be black. And then they will sort out whatever the issue is by punching or choking out the person that Jack just started some beef with. And then the internet goes completely crazy by saying this dude started on somebody, then got his 6'7" behemoth of a security guy to step in and smash some kid in the face. And now he's getting paid millions of dollars and has a Lambo and lives in LA or something.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's not the only one. I mean, this is a whole trend, you know, there's people like Mizzy, for instance. You probably know about Mizzy as well. Who was the guy who was going into libraries and ripping up the books whilst filming the librarians to see what they would do. And then you have like Johnny Somali, who would go out and start harassing people in the streets and recording their reactions. And he actually went to Japan, and it's quite interesting because first he got knocked out. He got hit in the face and knocked out because in Japan they don't screw around, right? And then he got arrested, and now he's in jail. At least last I heard, he was in jail. He's in jail in Japan, right? So there is occasionally comeuppance, but I mean, most of the time there is no comeuppance for these influencers, and they just go out there and they harass people in the streets and they record it because they know, again, this is limbic hijacking, right? They know that by appealing to the worst, most basest impulses of the human brain, they can get a lot of eyeballs. And so they just basically, there's a lot of pressure on young people to have a lot of followers on social media, for instance, you know, and they want to be popular. Everybody wants to be the cool kids. And one way to get a large following online, if you don't have other talents, is to just be an asshole, you know, just be an asshole and film people around you. And the people will get hate followers. They'll get hate audiences who watch them simply to hate on them. And I think, you know, people like Mizzy and Jack Dougherty fall into this kind of strategy. I think Jack Dougherty originally he just did some other lifestyle stuff, but he obviously found this niche and he thought, wow, I'm making way more money doing this. And now he's a millionaire. I mean, he's got a lot of money, and you know, he's got a very glamorous lifestyle. At least it appears glamorous if you look at his Instagram account. You know, he's surrounded by fancy cars and beautiful women and all this stuff, you know, and he portrays this kind of lifestyle of, you know, I'm success. But really, when you look at what he does to earn that success now, he just goes out there and he just makes life miserable for everybody. And this is bad because this is creating a very perverse incentive structure, fueled by TikTok again. And the Chinese government probably knows that they're doing this, and they're allowing that these nuisance influencers to get a lot of views on TikTok because they know that it's bad for America and it's bad for the UK and it's bad for West in general. But yeah, I mean, so it's a race to the bottom now where you've got a lot of people competing to be the most nuisance, to be the biggest nuisance, to be the worst possible human being. People who formerly were pranksters, people like FouseyTube. So you'd probably know about FouseyTube.
Fucking hell, yeah. He basically had a full-on psychological break on camera, got arrested by Miami police, called the cops like on himself, pretended that someone had a knife or a gun or something. Yeah, wild.
Exactly. And the crazy thing is that we don't even know if this was genuine or not. This could have all been part of, again, just being a nuisance, you know. It might be real, you know, it might not. We don't know because the line between sort of real and sort of fiction is sort of blurring now. And, you know, for instance, Mizzy said that all of his pranks were planned and stuff, but it's hard to believe that he would go into, say, Asda, he'd go into a superstore and, you know, he would start riding on the sort of disabled trolley things that they have, and, you know, just smashing shelves and stuff, and that the supermarkets would actually allow him to do that. It's just not, I don't believe that, you know. But like a lot of them will say stuff like that to defend themselves if they get into a lot of hot water. And ultimately what this does is that this creates really bad incentives for kids, Because if you think about in the past, in order to be, at the dawn of YouTube, for instance, in order to get a big following on YouTube, you tended to have to do something that was extraordinary in some way, and extraordinary in a positive sense. You tend to, have to be talented at something. The first big YouTubers tended to be sort of musicians, or sort of, athletes of some kind, of people who had some kind of skill. But very soon, people realized that you could actually develop just as big of a following by having zero talent and just being a nuisance, just being an asshole to people. And once that happened, this kind of nuisance influencing went viral. And it's essentially a race to the bottom now, where people are competing now to be the worst possible human being, which really sets a bad precedent. It sets bad incentives for other young kids watching this. Because when the kids watch it, they say, oh, I want to be like Mizzy. I want to be like Jack Dougherty. I want to have all these fancy girls, all these fancy cars. I want to be like that. So I'm going to learn how to be an insufferable human being.
Yeah.
That person is bringing no value to life, and they're getting rewarded for it.
People respond to incentives. Life harder for everybody. Yeah, they respond to incentives. And exactly. if you say, rather than working really hard at a thing consistently for a long period of time and accumulating skills and making yourself worthwhile, the bottom of the brain, it's the reason I think in part that there is some distaste against Silver Spoon Dynasty children and OnlyFans influencers, that there's something unfair. It feels like, well, hang on, you got that, but you didn't work for it. And in a meritocratic system, which is what we've got, that's always going to get people's backs up. I have to work harder than this person to get less. How can that be fair? Oh, well, it's because they were given a privilege that I didn't get. That seems unfair. It's because they're prepared to compromise their morals in some way that I see as I wouldn't do. Therefore, I am somehow superior to them. There's this like Puritan sort of nobility that gets associated with it. But when we're talking about nuisance influencers, which I think is a phenomenal term that I've never heard of before, and dude, that first sentence that you put, many people would rather be hated than unknown. Just brilliant. And I know that you've got 2 books in the works, one of which you may have submitted, but I can't wait for both of them, man. Like, I think all of the times I watch very similar stuff to what you watch, and yet what you're able to pull out of it is significantly more in depth than me. So I'm very, very excited for what you've got coming up. In other news, this episode is brought to you by Element. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything that you need and nothing that you don't. It's a healthy alternative to sugary electrolyte drinks, and it is the best way that I've started my morning every single day for over 3 years now. It contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio of sodium, potassium, and magnesium with no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, or any other junk. Your adenosine system that caffeine acts on isn't active for the first 90 minutes of the day, but your adrenal system is, and salt acts on your adrenal system. So if you want to be more awake, want to regulate your appetite, curb cravings, and have better brain health, this is the way to start your day. Head to drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom to get a free sample pack of all 8 flavors with your first box. Plus, there is a no BS, no questions asked refund policy, so you can buy it 100% risk-free. That's drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, then press here for the full podcast episode. Go on. Press it.